In the last video, we finished shaping the rails. In this video, we're going to go ahead and smooth out the deck. There were some divots and voids, and I'd have to sand the entire deck down maybe another eighth of an inch if I wanted to get them all down simply by sanding, which I thought was too much. I went ahead and filled with an epoxy paste mixed with talc. We'll find out if that was a good idea or bad, but I think that's probably the way to go. We start off by mixing our epoxy. It's absolutely critical that you get the epoxy mixed correctly. If you get too much hardener, it's not going to harden faster. It just won't. If you don't put enough hardener in, it won't harden slower. It just won't. It'll make a sticky mess and you'll probably wreck your project. So I use a little digital scale. So I don't wreck my scale. I stuck it in a Ziploc bag. Sooner or later, I'm going to spill some epoxy, and it looked in this case like it was sooner. The next thing to keep in mind is that the two parts have to be really mixed well. I'm using a pre-thickened epoxy here. It was actually some stuff that was expired from my work that I'm just using. I ended up using some other stuff that I purchased as well that I'll be doing my glass with. But either way, you got to mix it in the proper proportions, and then you really have to make sure it's mixed well. If there's any kind of striations or color differences or anything like that, it's not mixed well enough. It's surprising how much talc you need. What you're really looking for is kind of like a peanut butter consistency, I think. Some people will say mayonnaise consistency, slightly thinner, but you really want it kind of thick so it's not running down the edge of the board or anything like that. I think it's a mistake to try to fill in a reasonably big gap, maybe more than a 16th of an inch, all in one step. So I'm getting started with the spreader and just working as much of it in there as I can, with the expectation that we're going to have to come back. I went back 2 or 3 times with the spreader, just tried to fill the gap in. For clear epoxy, it's nice to let the sun shine into the container. If it's not mixed well, you'll see the differences. Even though the two parts are almost clear, you can kind of see they refract the light differently. To make a paste that isn't just going to run away, you need to thicken it with something. There's all kinds of things available. There's fused silica, there's micro balls, all kinds of fancy stuff. But what actually works pretty well and is not very expensive is just plain talc. I got this tire talc from O'Reilly's Auto Parts for $7, and it's plenty for this project and some other things I use talc on as well. It's not fancy stuff that you'd use on a baby diaper, and it certainly doesn't have the stink, so this is the way to go. When I thought I was pretty close, then I took this longer piece of steel that I had in the garage and used that to kind of spread it and get it reasonably smooth. And then once everything seemed to be reasonably smooth as I could get it with the spreaders, it's back to sanding. Not quite as much as the first time, but still quite a bit. I want that deck to be flat and smooth. I want it to be as good as we can get it.